off for the internet.
Like last year.
You know?
Oh.
So usually there's
Yeah. You double click it.
August was where we kind of bottomed out. It feels like we
settings. Let me go to settings.
two cells, convocation.
Not connected.
So now I'm subconscious.
Town
Yeah.
hall. All
Okay,
right.
yeah, I'm in it.
Maybe that's it.
And I got it down.
Nope. Yeah, still says not connected. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, so let me know when we're ready. Oh, we are? Okay. All right, so I'm out.
Did you go? Oh, good.
And I don't know
I
if
meant to contact you, but I was so, I've been.
the Wi-Fi's not connecting.
They talk about Trump.
But Ben's on.
Yeah.
Did you,
Just trying to turn it off.
did they talk about the?
I went to the settings and I went to town hall. Oh, no, I'm trying. Well, just flipped on.
Changes that.
One sec.
The way they approach it, everybody's involved. The way they want to move forward, everybody has good momentum. Like if you take all the ideas, it's great. They want us to have
It was 1988.
400.
Okay. We're good. Okay. All right. We need to speak aloud because we have sort of an old-fashioned system here to boost us. So right now we are calling the July 16th Town Council meeting to order, 6:30. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Councilor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Cortez.
Here.
Councilor Fay.
Present.
Councilor McGinnis.
Present.
Councilor Poland.
Here.
Councilor Walters.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Winograd.
Here.
Councilor Zdanowitz.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. I want to begin this council meeting by taking the privilege of saying a few words about the attempted assassination of former President Trump. This was a cowardly, violent, and horrific act that wounded the former president, caused death and injury to innocent bystanders, and it has no place in our democratic society. Acts of violence weaken us as a nation, and our country suffers whenever we normalize violence and hate. We can heal these divisions and strengthen our democracy by demonstrating compassion and respect for one another and working toward achieving peace and unity. Republican, Democrat, Independent, or third party, we are all Americans, and as we debate issues, we need to remember that there is far more that unites us than divides us. Corey Comparator, a father and husband, was killed exercising the most fundamental of American rights, the right to peaceably assemble and engage in political activism. I pray for the safety of all candidates for public office and the continued health and vitality of our great republic. Please join me in a moment of silence in memory of Corey and hope for the speedy recovery of President Trump and the others who were injured. Thank you. Thank you. Are you okay, Mr. Davidoff? Okay. We will wait for a minute. All right. We will actually begin with the public forum. I don't think there's anyone that's signed up to speak. If you would like to speak to any item on the agenda that's not subject to the public hearing that we just extended continued, and there was not, okay. I think we need to wait for a town clerk.
Yeah.
I know. It happens.
Glad you're back.
Okay. We will go to consent calendar, 4A. Mr. Winograd.
Without objection, I move that items 5A and 5B be placed on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent. Mr. Winograd?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We now go to new business, 7A, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement with CSEA SEIU Local 2001 Public Safety Dispatchers Unit for the period July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2027.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, this is,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you for approval is the ratified agreement between the CSEA Public Safety Dispatchers Unit and the Town of West Hartford. This settlement was ratified by the dispatchers last month following a negotiation process between CSEA and town representatives, including our HR Director, Josephine Agnello-Vili, and Senior HR Specialist, Claudia Tata, as well as our outside counsel, Ken Weinstock. The contract you're ratifying tonight expired on July 1st of 2021 and will run through June 30th of 2026. June 30th of 2027. So we'll go retroactive 3 years and forward 3 years. The wage agreement calls for a 3% general wage increase in each of the first 4 years and a 2.6% general wage increase in each of the last 2 years. We would increase the longevity benefit to $375 at 5 years of service, $500 at 10 years of service, and $650 at 15 years of service. The contract will also provide an educational stipend of $960 annually for an associate's or bachelor's degree. We've also modified the vacation accrual schedule slightly by lowering the time to get to the maximum from 24 years to 21 years with additional days earned depending on years of service. The health insurance changes include increases to employees' premium contributions. For existing employees, we'll increase the contribution from 19% to 20%, and the salary cap moves from 4.25% to 5.25%. And then effective upon ratification, that will happen effective upon ratification. And then on July 1st of 2026, the 5.25% salary cap increases to 6%. For employees hired after the ratification date, there's a 20% contribution with a 6.25% salary cap, which will increase to 6.75% effective July 1st of 2026. In addition, for employees hired after the ratification date, they will be eligible for retiree health insurance upon normal retirement with a 50% employee premium contribution for the retiree and a 100% employee contribution for those retirees with a spouse, which will significantly reduce our retiree health liability. We're also increasing the health insurance opt-out stipend from $1,500 to $2,500 for employees who opt not to take our health insurance. I do want to take a moment to thank our negotiation team, Josephine, Claudia, and Ken, for their hard work on this contract, as well as our dispatchers. Our dispatchers, led by our ERC manager, Todd Hungerford, as well as our police chiefs, are the unsung heroes of our emergency response system. And I think this contract reflects our commitment to supporting the essential services that our dispatchers provide to our community. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions that yourself or the councilors may have on this contract.
thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I don't know if we want to start with Mr. Winograd, as this was in his committee, so, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No questions because we were able to cover this in some detail at our committee meeting this week, and everyone had an opportunity to ask questions at that point. But I believe you presented a good case yesterday at committee, and appreciate all your efforts. And I certainly urge support for this and compliment the bargaining teams on both sides for a worthy effort and a good outcome.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Are there any comments from Ms. Fay?
Thank you very much. I'm going to be very positive about this contract. I know you're all going to be surprised and probably say, what does she lose her mind today? I'm very happy about the changes in the benefit structure and the co-pays. Something the contribution portion of the premiums made by employees. That's something that's been a sticky wicket for me for a long time. And I also wanted to recognize in other contracts that you are starting to recognize the gaps in our workers' comp, and I appreciate that very, very much. So I want to acknowledge those changes. I don't think they're far enough yet, but it's progress, and I'm very pleased, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fay, and I kind of thought you were going to do that. I say that. I did. Because, yeah, it's been a consistent message, and I know the town manager's been listening, and sometimes you can't get to all the items you want to get to, but you chug away. Any other comments? Ms. Blanks?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too am happy to learn about the outcome of this agreement, and especially, like you said, these are unsung heroes. We hear a lot about our officers and our firefighters, but this particular unit, I feel, is so critical because they really do make the difference between life and death, and that timing and being able to communicate clearly to those others on the other end and to save that particular resident or visitor or whomever that is in need of critical care at the time. So I too will be supporting this as well, but I just want to say kudos to this group of individuals because they do really bring it home when it's necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Bikes, and I want to recognize Ms. Bikes as the Public Safety Chair, and this impacts her committee as well. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, I just want to echo and actually thank, in executive session we heard this, and we're going to repeat it in the next item as well, is the town manager's leadership in these negotiations. He didn't mention that when he was naming the Josephine, Claudia, and Ken as really important elements to making this, coming to this agreement. I also want to say sometimes this contract goes back. This looks back. This has been something that has been worked on for a long time and paused and then worked on again. And so this is important that we move ahead with this, and we know that we're probably going to be talking about this in not that many years again. But it is a process, and sometimes union negotiations take quite a bit of time. So I appreciate the effort of everybody. And to Ms. Fay's point, I think everyone at this table knows, and we will talk about this a little bit more in the next resolution, our pension was underfunded for a long, long, long time, and it was getting critically worse. And I think we're very... I think it was very strategic that we refinanced the program in a way that took a lot of pressure off the budget and allowed us to concentrate on some other items in the package of compensation. So we have been working on those elements, and I think this is sort of one of the first negotiations where we really see that. So thank you very much. All right. So. Any further questions or comments? Okay, we will go to a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Letter B, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move a resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement with the West Hartford Police Officers Association for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2028.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. This settlement was ratified by the association last month following a several-month-long process between their team and our team, which included Chief Riddick, AC Riccabon, AC Terra, our HR Director, Josephine Agnello-Vili, as well as our Senior HR Specialist, Claudia Tata. This 4-year contract is effective July 1st, 2024, so it's only going back a couple of weeks now, and will expire on June 30th of 2028. And I'll first talk briefly about the theme of this contract. And from both sides, our focus was on the importance of recruiting exceptional police officer candidates and retaining exceptional police officers. As we know, recruiting has been a challenge for agencies across the state and country, and though we have not necessarily experienced that to the degree that others have, we also have certain areas of our contract that we feel needed to be addressed to ensure that we continue to recruit only the highest caliber of officers to West Hartford. And I think a little historical context will help with this part of the discussion as well. The contract that just expired was a 3-year agreement that called for a 1% general wage increase in year 1, 1.5% in year 2, and 2% in the last year of the agreement. The contract before this 3-year deal was a 9-year agreement that had almost 6 years of retroactive pay. And for counselors who were involved back then, you may recall that we had a significant pension arbitration that had created the long delay in negotiating that pact. That was a contract where we made significant changes for our new police officers with regards to the pension plan, reducing the multiplier from 2.5 times years of service down to 2 times years of service, and then eliminating overtime for the calculation, creating what is still in place now, a significant gap in benefits between our new police officers and our existing officers, and nearly 50% reduction in benefits between those two classifications. In addition, the wage settlement for that 9-year period was also very favorable for our taxpayers as well. In fact, the average wage increase for our police officers over the last 12 years has averaged 1.875% annually. So this has left our salary scale behind many other communities, which is why we needed to, as I said earlier, focus on recruitment as part of these negotiations. And we needed a wage settlement that would close the gap between our officers and those of neighboring towns. And with the overtime and multiplier issue for our new hires, we needed to look at anything we could do creatively to retain officers who may look at opportunities elsewhere because of that significant difference in pension benefits. So the wage increase for this 4-year agreement calls for a 3% general wage increase in the first year this year, a 3.25% next year, a 3.25% in year 3, and a 3.5% increase in year 4. Now this is a little bit higher than some of our recent settlements, but again, when you look at how our salary scale compared to our peer communities in the region, our salaries were lower than theirs, and we needed to start to make an adjustment in our wage scale to get it closer to our neighboring communities. And this 4-year agreement will allow us to remain somewhat competitive with some of these smaller communities, although their salaries will continue to grow as well. We feel this is a good start in getting us in line over the next 4 years. The next change we wanted to discuss did involve being creative on our part, and as I said, with major prior changes that we made with our pension plan, we had created a significant gap between new officers and existing officers, so much so that we were worried about potential morale issue, as well as I said, that retention issue. What this contract will do we will reduce the definition of normal retirement for our new hires from 25 years down to 20 years of service. However, new hires would still not be eligible for overtime in their calculation. We're reducing that number to reach normal retirement from 25 to 20. However, overtime will not be part of that calculation as we move forward. The lowering of the years of service would lower our pension liability. That was important to us, that we don't do anything that's going to undo the changes that we did to protect our pension plan long term. However, that decrease in liability would be offset by an increase in retiree health liability. In addition to this change, we would offer our officers with an opportunity to participate in a deferred retirement pilot program. So over the next 4 years, officers, when reaching the retirement age, could elect to participate in the pilot plan. And I I discussed this last night in committee, and I'm not sure I did such a great job of explaining how this works, so I was actually talking to Counselor Blanks today, and I used her as an example, and so I will use that again if you don't mind, Counselor Blanks. So Counselor Blanks recently retired from the state of Connecticut, so last year she retired from the state, and assumed she had a
2 years ago.
was it 2 years ago now? Oh my gosh.
No, time flies.
Time does fly. So say at the time Counselor Blanks was retiring, the state, who was also in a position that they wanted to retain their employees, would have offered Ms. Blanks an opportunity to enter this deferred retirement program. So at the time, Counselor Blanks, let's assume she was going to get a $50,000 a year pension. The state would have said, okay, Counselor Blanks, if you stay here, we're going to take that $50,000 and set it aside for you. You'll continue to be paid for the next 4 years as an active employee, and that at the end of that 4-year time period, you're then going to retire. We're going to take that money that we set aside for you and pay you in a lump sum payment. With our plan, we would pay you 90%, 92% of the value of that lump sum. Then at that time, Ms. Blanks would retire. She's separated service from the state. She will then receive her pension on a monthly basis, but it's at the level that she would have retired when she entered into the deferred retirement plan 4 years earlier. So she doesn't accrue additional years of service. It becomes like this forced savings account for her with that retirement benefit, and she would get paid that out in 4 years, and then at that point separate service and receive her monthly benefit, but again, calculated at the level that it was when she entered into that plan 4 years earlier. So I hope I did a better job of explaining. I can answer questions on that too, Councilor Fay, if you have any. Maybe I made it more confusing.
I'll wait till others.
Okay.
I do have some.
So this is a plan that we are seeing in public safety agencies around the state now. They are becoming more popular. Again, our plan is set up so that it will not have any negative impact on our pension plan, but something different that we hope will help us retain police officers and not look at some of the other agencies around the state. So. We will study this plan over the next 4 years. If it doesn't work, certainly we will sit back down with our partners with the Police Officers Association and look at other creative ways that we may be able to retain police officers. Other changes in the contract include vacation language that will allow us to recruit officers who are coming from another agency. So a lot of times someone may retire if they get a 20-year pension, retire from Newington, come here. We now have language in our contract that will allow us to start them at a higher level of vacation and not start at the very beginning, coming in with experience. We have language in the new contract that will allow us to address the potential of abuse of sick leave. Not necessarily a problem that we've had, but we do have that language that will allow us to address that. Added language, adding compensation time usage, maxing it out at 220 hours per year. Some folks, if you take an overtime assignment, can choose comp time instead of overtime pay, and this is something that would address that. Insurance contributions for Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees would increase by 15%. Tier 3 employees would remain at the current level of contribution that they make. We had, if you recall the last contract, we had made a distinction between Tier 1 and Tier 2 and new hires. So in order to kind of close that gap between those tiered employees, we're leaving Tier 3 at their current contribution of 15% of the employee contribution. Health insurance opt-out stipend will increase from $1,500 to $2,500 as an incentive to not choose our insurance. And then again, due to the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2, we are going to add a $750 deferred compensation match in our 457 plan for Tier 3 employees. We'll increase our tuition refund program from $20,000 to $30,000. We'll add an additional step to our captain and lieutenant promotional process by adding a written portion of the exam. And then finally, language revision to our workers' compensation plan that we will be applying consistently across all of our union units that will limit our long-term workers' compensation exposure. In closing, I just want to commend our police officers as well as both negotiating teams. We have our President and Vice President, Detective Seeger and Ray Wood here with us this evening for their commitment to a very collaborative negotiation process. This contract recognizes the tremendous value we place in our officers who work hard every day, 24/7, to keep our communities safe. This contract will also support our recruitment and retention efforts to ensure that we continue to hire and retain the best officers who've committed their professional lives to keeping our communities safe. I will pause there and through you, Madam Mayor, turn it back to you and the council for any questions or comments that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. I'm sure we all have comments, but I'm going to wait on the comment and just make sure that questions are answered. I know Ms. Fay had a question. So, I don't know. We'll start with you, Ms. Fay.
Yes, thanks, and I'll reserve my comments for later. It's been a while since I've been running pension and retirement businesses, but they keep getting more creative. This is a new one for me. Are we trying to incent, I understand what we're doing with changing the opt-outs, what we're trying to incent, but with this one, are we trying to incent people to defer taking their pension and get the lump sum and the payment? Or, like, I'm trying to figure out what behavior, and then my second question would be as a follow-up, with the lump sum. I know cash balances and all those things, they have some of those options too. I would assume by forgetting the lump sum, there's a massive discount rate that's applied to that, so, because the actual, how do I say this? The actual number that's required to pay those monthly payments for life is gonna be bigger than the $50,000 in that example, because then it wouldn't make sense if you were gonna equalize it, and they didn't get a payment, it wouldn't make sense. So I was just wondering how much it was discounted, but you probably don't know. But I can follow up with the actuaries afterwards. That was one question, but I'm more interested in like the behavior that we're trying to incent. So thank you.
So I'll be able to answer both questions.
Great.
So we did discount it by 8%, so the lump sum payment that you'll receive at the end of 1, 2, 3, or 4 years would be 92% of the value of the pension. And the behavior we are trying to incent is a recruitment tool, or a retainment tool. So when folks get to retirement age, and we've been dealing with this for the last several years where, you know, with especially as we have a lot more Tier 3 employees now, so our workforce within the police department's gotten younger, and, you know, we are starting to lose our senior leadership, our captains and lieutenants and sergeants, and we're trying our best to keep them on a little bit longer past normal retirement age. So this is an incentive to hopefully keep them beyond that 20-year mark. So they defer their retirement. We calculate their retirement at that 20-year mark, or 21, 22, depending on when they opt into the plan. And then we continue to pay them as an active employee. They're eligible for promotions during that time period. They no longer have to contribute into the pension plan, so they get a savings built into their pay by not paying into the pension plan at that point. So they get a little bit of a boost in salary because of that savings. So it's worked in other communities, and we're very hopeful that we'll have success here as well, and retaining these valuable seasoned police officers.
And just one more, so for everybody who's listening who might think it's counterintuitive, so we went from 25 years of service for retirement to 20, but we're trying to incent them to still stay. It's kind of counterintuitive, right?
So it was part of the negotiation process, and what was, you know, very important to the Tier 3 employees, that we do something with that overtime not being factored into their pension, and that was something that we couldn't do.
Okay.
So and it's something, honestly, I think will always come up during negotiations. Mm-hmm. But again, it was something, all right, is there something different, creative that we can do to, you know, feel, ensure that those Tier 3 police officers know that we appreciate that they're here, want them to stay here, and then that was something that we could do to keep them here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's great.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Thank you, Mr. Ledwood. Any other questions from counselors? So an officer could stay 25 years and then opt into the 4-year pilot, so it doesn't have to be at 20 years, correct? That's
Correct, Madam Mayor, so they can opt in at any point. Any year that they stay beyond their normal retirement age and not opt into the plan, they're accruing a higher benefit. So they could at 23, 24, 25 years, then opt into the pilot program and stay an additional 4 years.
okay. I'm going to go around again. Any other question? Mr. Cortez?
So once they opt in, they have to do a minimum time in order to get that lump sum?
So we're encouraging people to opt in for anywhere from 1 year to 4 years, but obviously life circumstances can get in the way, and we have language in there that would allow someone to opt out of the plan if they so choose. So at that point, they wouldn't be receiving much of a lump sum. If they opted out after 6 months, they get 6 months of their pension that they would have received, so a much smaller amount.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Okay, going around again. All right, and so now we'll go back to comments, and we'll start with Mr. Winograd again out of his committee, and then go to Ms. Blanks because this impacts our committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, we obviously had a good chance to hear this explanation yesterday and get some questions there as well. And I do want to compliment Ms. Lidwith for explaining a very difficult contract. I've negotiated hundreds of contracts, and this one is one of the more complex that I've seen. And sort of as sort of a practitioner, I'm looking at your end product and just liking, kind of ticking off boxes of things that I really like about this particular contract, and again for both sides. And one thing I really like, starting at the end, is just the creativity. I understand some other places have done this, but this is a different concept, and I really appreciate the party's willingness to look at something new and try to come up with that problem-solving thing. That's not always easy, and sides get locked into their positions. I also appreciate the fact that, like the extra step we had done last contract, this is sunset, so that if it doesn't work, we start at square one. Neither side has an advantage in the next contract. Neither side has to seek to get rid of it. It goes away unless the parties want to retain it. I think that's a really important protection for both sides to make sure this thing actually works. And I like that feature, and I appreciate, again, that you put it in there, and that was agreeable to both sides. That's very valuable. And then finally, you got it done on time. It is a couple days after, but especially given the history with this bargaining unit, to be on time is great. I'm sure the committees are happy to have a summer where they're not going to be spending time working on this. I'm certainly working on contracts this summer that I wish had finished on time. So that's something, congratulations to everybody on that. And I know I've gone long on this, but let me just say one other thing, is that to the extent that this is a more generous contract than others we'll see around the state for this year, and because of management successes in the past, and I think it's important for people to realize that when you're negotiating a labor contract, we're really talking about a relationship, and a win one year just creates a problem in following years. And if you're able to drive a hard bargain and get a bargaining unit working below the market, it feels like a savings, but in fact you're increasing your costs through recruitment and loss of excellent employees. So, it's hard. Sometimes you get in the heat of the moment, and you kind of want that win, and you get a goal of reducing overtime pay, for example. And again, the outcome can be, hey, great, we reduce costs, but but the result is now we're spending a whole lot more money either on overtime or on recruitment and other things. So I think that getting to a fair contract should be a joint goal, and I think you've achieved it. So again, kudos to and just thank you again to both sides, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. You speak from a lot of experience. Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, thank you, Mr. Ludwig, for the explanation just now as well as earlier for me. And I agree that this is a good agreement. And I would also like to not only thank you, but all the parties that were involved, and especially the union leaders that are in the room with us. I remember when I was on the board, I had the experience of participating in the negotiations, and I would say that is quite an experience. So if an elected official has never done that, I would encourage them to try that at least once. What's in the agreement, I feel as though, is great, especially with our officers and all what they do and how they keep our town safe and how they go above and beyond for everyone. So whether you're a resident or whether you're visiting, whether you're in the district or what have you, they take their job very seriously and they undergo rigorous training, and the leadership that leads them are very professional and go to bat for each and every single person. And so what I think that is before us today is great, and it's long overdue, especially when we look at other towns and cities that surround us. So I would just like to say kudos and congratulations for all the hard work that everybody put into this and bringing it forward and bringing it to us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. Mr. Sedano?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like Ms. Blanks, I've actually been in a couple of them, negotiations, and I know how difficult and taxing they really are. So kudos to this agreement. And in our meeting yesterday, Rick, I just really want to say how articulate and comprehensive you were, and I think that demonstrated through not a lot of questions. I think that you were able to take a very complicated piece of information and kind of make it very understandable, and that's kudos to you. Almost like if you were like a director of HR in your previous life, you know. So it came across very well, and it was understandable. And don't ever take people not asking a lot of questions maybe by confusion or anything. No, it was because it was well thought out, both in the negotiations and you explaining it. So I'm happy that we're here in this, and I'll be supporting this as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sedano. Mr. Walters.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I think, Ben and Mark and Carol, Councilor Blanks, have all put into words a lot of what I feel. But I also see a trend in that Manager Ledwith creates these very collaborative, creative, not contracts by themselves, but atmosphere in which they can be negotiated. So I think, looking at this as just another piece of that trend, I really do, thank you and acknowledge that it does take a skill to get there, and maybe Ben, maybe Deputy Mayor Winograd and Councilor Blanks and Councilor Zdanowicz have that talent, but it's not something I have. So I can commend you on that, and congratulations on it.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Ms. McGinnis?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Pretty much everything has been said. One thing in our committee meeting last night, Chief Riddick did seem pleased with the contract and did seem to think that that would help with the recruitment and retainment, which obviously are very important to the safety of the town and to the quality of our officers. So again, thanks to everyone who worked on the contract. I'm glad that we're at this point, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Mr. Cortez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I've had the opportunity to sit through this hazardous duty contract in the past. You know, I retired from corrections, so I have that experience. I think what this contract does, it rights some wrongs. You know, that 25-year retirement, bringing it back down to 20. The life expectancy of law enforcement officers is 55 years old. You know, so that's a short time. You know, it does put a lot of stress on the body. There's that mental stress. There's stuff that you can't even understand, and it takes years for your body to shut that stuff down, you know, and get that weight off your shoulders. But you know what this contract also shows is that these contracts do have an impact on the future. You know, sitting on these contracts in the past, you either get one or the other. You either get the benefits or the money, and we're getting a lot of both sides here. So as a taxpayer, it's always hard. And when we negotiated in corrections, I've always looked at it not only how do I benefit, but the impact on the taxpayers. But that being said, I sat here the last time, and when I saw the increases, they were very low. So again, what happens today does have an impact in the future. And I think that those lower increases now put us in a spot with an issue of retention between that and, you know, that 25 years, you start to lose people. Why do this job if we're not making what our neighbors are making? Why do this job for 25 years? You know, it does have a toll on his life. So I am struggling with, you know, the cost overall, but I do appreciate that we've righted some wrongs, and I am keeping in mind that that last contract we did was kind of low. I think it was kind of a disservice, and it skews the numbers a little bit. So I'm keeping an open mind. It's just, as a taxpayer, you got to look at it, you know, what's the impact to us. But retention is important, and what is the price of retention? And I noticed that we do have a lot of vacancies. You know, I see we're constantly hiring, and that cannot be good for the morale in the police department. And you know, the solutions for some of these problems is like you retire and then we'll hire you back. You know, so again, I think that this did correct some issues. I don't know how I'm going to go with my vote. I am 50-50, but there's a lot of good stuff coming here, and you know, we got to look at it from both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Ms. Fay?
Excuse me, thank you very much. Wow, there's a lot here to unpack and to say. First and foremost, and I'm not just saying it because there's two officers in the room, you know how I feel about law enforcement. I come from a family of law enforcement and deeply respect what you do each and every day, and for those who pay the ultimate price, I think you're in my prayers all the time, and the families, including, I know it was fire, but first responder who was killed in the President Trump attempted assassination. So your thoughts are always with me, and you do heroic work, and I'm blessed to live in a town that I believe has one of the best police departments in the state, and I know if I needed you and had to call 911, you would be there without any hesitation, and I'm grateful for that. So contracts are tough, and I'm grateful that we do have this experience in this room. I was responsible in one job for a large healthcare organization where I had 39 units that I had to manage through, and I think that the tone that you should operate whenever you're negotiating between management and labor, we're supposed to be on the same side. I know it doesn't feel it, but management wants success for labor. And I think labor wants their management and leadership to succeed as well. So it has to be fair, and I think this is fair. I'm always the hawk on the finance. I can't help myself. That's in my DNA too. But I do think this is fair, and I'm extremely grateful. And I'll be supporting this, so thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Ms. Poulin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The police department, this is one of the most basic services that we provide as a community, as our town. And it's our responsibility as a town council to ensure that our police department is appropriately staffed and trained and ready to serve. It's also our responsibility to keep a check on taxpayer dollars, of course. I believe that this contract strikes a balance and provides some needed increases and changes to this contract. We also need to recognize that we're talking about a lot of dollars and years and pensions and insurance and so forth, but what we're really talking about is people. And, you know, our police officers are people with families, with loved ones and friends, and many of them are our neighbors and community members. And I want to just personally thank our police department for your contributions, both in your professional role, but also I know many of you volunteer in our community and just add so much. So I'm supportive of this contract and grateful to our town manager and our staff, as well as the folks who were negotiating on behalf of the police officers as well, and ask everyone to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Pullen. And so many important things have been said. Thank you, Detectives Sager and Raywood, for being here and for hearing us. And it's so clear that the priority for you was to be a partner with the town and enter into a fair contract, because as much has been said, it's balanced, it's thoughtful, it's creative, and it is a contract where you have true success, where nobody is 100% happy when you walk away. Unfortunately, that's not the way things go. It is a balance. And the community, we say we care, and we do, and we've had to write some things with previous decisions that have been made that really didn't have anything to do with current leadership on police or even current town leadership, but decisions that were made a long time ago that we all had to reckon with to keep stability and our community positioned to be well funded ultimately. I mean, I'm talking about the underfunded pension plan, which really put a lot of pressure on all of us for sure, some short-term gain, unfortunately. And so we always do have to look at the future and how this positions us, and no contract sits in isolation. It is a story that we tell and build on, whether it's addressing an underfunded pension or medical costs that are going up, and we have to do that, or salaries that have fallen below competition, or in vacation time that isn't recognized when an experienced person comes over. And this thoughtful contract that obviously had a lot of preparation and creativity and thought involved in all of the leaders. Mr. Ledwith, union leadership, obviously performed really, really well. And I want to thank you for your commitment to getting to a place that is really successful, I think. And I do think this will help. I'm sure it's not going to fix everything. Law enforcement is one of the toughest jobs in our that anyone can choose, but it's one of the most important jobs, and I think one of their most rewarding jobs. And I will say, this community appreciates our law enforcement so much and understands the value and and really the difference it makes in our everyday lives. So it is with great pride and that I will support this contract. And we will go to a voice vote. All of those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you all. All right. Letter C, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt a resolution appropriating unexpended funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 capital and non-reoccurring expenditure budget.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A little over a year ago, the council appropriated $117,000 for the purchase of a police utility vehicle, as well as $146,000 for public works equipment. Delivery for both purchases has been delayed into the fiscal year 25 year, and this resolution will carry over $87,260 for the public works purchase and $42,256 for the police vehicle, with both purchases scheduled to be completed within the next couple of months.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there any questions of Ms. Fay?
excuse me, it's probably a memory lapse on my part. These are budgeted for, these items, and so is it just
They were,
putting
yeah.
them so that we can,
Yep.
okay,
April 23, we had, the council had made an appropriation and it got delayed throughout
Okay.
the year, which is moving it forward.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are up to you, Mr. Ledwith, Town Manager's Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and great news to report. Earlier today, we were notified by Governor Lamont's office that we had received a $697,000 community connectivity grant for sidewalk accessibility improvements. We plan to upgrade, replace, and/or install accessible sidewalk ramps in various locations throughout town to improve the accessibility for all users, particularly those with mobility issues. Locations will focus on arterial and collector roadways and areas near high pedestrian generators such as schools or parks. We've identified about 25 locations for proposed improvements, one of them being, I did have a chance to check, and Farmington and Trout Brook is among those, so thank you for pointing that out earlier. We had a resident that we were talking about this grant who's in the audience this evening. It's tax time, as folks know. The Revenue Collection Office offers a friendly reminder that real estate, business, personal property, and motor vehicle tax payments must be postmarked or hand-delivered by Thursday, August 1st, 2024 to avoid penalty fees. There are 4 payment options: online, by mail, by secure Dropbox, or in person. Tax relief programs are available to veterans and income-eligible residents over the age of 65. Please contact our assessment office or visit the assessor's webpage to learn more. As part of the town's commitment to creating a supportive environment for all individuals, the Office of Equity Advancement, in partnership with the Department of Social Services, is conducting a LGBTQ and Community Needs Assessment Survey for West Hartford residents. We encourage residents to participate in the survey by the July 31st deadline. And the town's second round of road resurfacing began July 9th on the following roads: Belknap, Buena Vista, Chinstill Lane to Mountain Road, Everett Avenue, Flatbush Avenue, Glenbrook Road, Golf Road, Sherwood Road, Varden Road, Webster Hill Boulevard, and West Ridge Drive. Repaving projects take 2 to 3 weeks to complete. Traffic flaggers will help direct motorists and pedestrians around the work zones. Additional roads will be repaved in September as well. And roadway reconstructions are more complicated than repaving and therefore take longer to complete, about 1 to 2 months. The work generally includes replacing the existing curb with a granite curb, replacing the existing driveway aprons with concrete aprons, and selectively replacing the sidewalk and drainage structure, reestablishing the roadway base material, and paving. Here's the status update on our reconstruction projects. St. Augustine Street, about 50% complete. Highland Street is finished. Warwick Street, Troutbrook Drive to Robin Road began the week of July 8th, and Pleasant Street is starting at the end of July. And that concludes my town manager's report this evening. Happy to answer any questions that the council may have through you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there questions? Okay, I don't see any. Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no formal report, and we do not require any executive sessions this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Are there any questions for Corporation Counsel? Okay, seeing none, we go to announcements. Arts Fellowship Program. The Connecticut Office of the Arts is thrilled to announce the Artist Fellowship Program is now accepting grant applications. The program allows Connecticut artists to pursue new work and advance their careers. Grants range in from $1,000 to $5,000, and all artistic disciplines are eligible. Some eligibility restrictions apply. Please review the program on the webpage, which is on our website under announcements. The application deadline is on or before September 20th, 2024. Free outdoor yoga Sundays and Wednesdays. Sundays at Beachland Park, 9 to 10 a.m. before it gets too hot. And on Wednesdays at Eisenhower from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. now through mid-August, certified West Hartford yoga instructors provide an hour of outdoor bliss. All experience levels are welcome. Classes include yoga postures, breath work, and meditation, which will give participants improved health and increased energy, along with a chance to relax among fellow yogis. It in a beautiful setting. Formal Wear Drive by the Health Collective in celebration and alignment with Playhouse on Park and the Health Collective's shared values. They will host a formal prom attire donation and collection drive during the run of the prom July 10th through August 18th. Patrons are encouraged to donate new or like new gowns, fancy dresses, suits, tuxedos, shirts, ties, accessories, and shoes, which can be dropped off anytime at the box when the box office is open, Monday through Friday 10 to 6 p.m., Saturday 10 to 2, or when you come to the prom. I guess you don't have to come dressed to the prom in prom wear, so I guess, unless you bring a change of clothes and then donate it. Donated clothing benefits attendees of the Health Collective's 30th annual Queer Prom, ensuring that all LGBTQIA youth can experience a magical, inclusive prom night. Visit the Playhouse lobby to learn more about the Health Collective and how you can contribute to this meaningful cause. Greater Hartford Shakespeare Festival presents Hamlet and the Taming of the Shrew. This will take place at University of St. Joseph. Actually, it has already started. To accommodate the growing demand, Capitol Classics has expanded the schedule to include 10 rotating performances of each production, running Wednesday through Sunday evenings now through August 4th. There is a link to tickets. The University of St. Joseph will sell food and beverages 90 minutes before showtime. I know a couple of our counselors have gone. I don't know. So it's always really, really good. I have gone in years past. The Original Promise of America, Pursuit of Happiness, July 18th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. This will take place at the Noah Webster House and is a part of a series of lectures exploring how the revolutionary generation, Noah Webster's generation, defined the purposes and prospects of their new nation. The free lecture series, The Original Promise of America, will be held on Thursday, July 18th, September 19th, and November 21st at the Noah Webster House from 6:30 to 7:30. Jean Leach, a West Hartford resident and former American Studies professor at Trinity College, will lead a discussion on this Pursuit of Happiness. Seating is limited to 50 guests, and there is a link to register. And then Ballet Under the Stars will take place on July 20th. If you haven't seen it before, you really should. It takes place at Elizabeth Park at 7 p.m. All shows are free and suitable for all ages. The tour includes performances at the Richter Arts Center in Danbury on Monday, July 29th, the Levitt Pavilion for Performing Arts in Westport on July 30th, and Mill River in Stamford on July 31st. All performances are 7 p.m. So there is also a link on our website, and this is an individual person that donated the ability to do this, and it's really beautiful to remember a loved one. So, are there any other announcements? No? Mr. Cortez, no?
So again, I would like to thank all the residents who have been donating food to the food pantry and our food pantry here in West Hartford, especially the ones that have been going to the West Hartford United Methodist Church and utilizing that drop-off. I see you guys. We do have a camera, so I see you guys doing your thing, and we appreciate it. We're going to continue doing that food drive all the way through Labor Day weekend. Thank you.
And just to add on, thank you, Mr. Cortez, and just to add on, in summer, people don't think about the fact that school lunches aren't provided or breakfasts aren't provided, and the need for food is bigger and more profound than ever. So if you are buying, and buy extra and drop it off, it will be greatly appreciated. Any other announcements? All right. I don't think the thunderstorms are here yet, which is really nice, but they're coming from what I understand. Yeah. All right. So we are done with our agenda. So without objection, I make a motion to adjourn. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, we are now adjourned. Thank you very much.